Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8 westbound at Junction 8, the on-slip from the A89 Coatbridge Road is partially blocked after a road traffic collision. The M4 eastbound is slow between Junction 45 at Innisforgan and Junction 43 at Landarcy. In Birmingham, the M6 southbound exit slip at Junction 6 has a crash with one lane closed, clearing after 10 this morning. Bedfordshire's the A1 southbound at the A6001 near Biggleswade has a collision with one lane shut, clearing after 10 this morning. And on the trains, cross-country and Great Western Railway report disruption at Gloucester. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
This has all just been blown out of proportion, to be fair. I don't know the individual who's put it up or... The first time I've heard about it today. It's basically, by the sounds of it, it's just a joke between soldiers, you know what I mean? But he's just venting his opinion, which he's entitled to. And, yeah.
And speaking to your friends who are still in the army, do you think there is a problem with morale, or do you think that the song isn't indicative of any real problems?
I don't think it's vindictive whatsoever. We've always mourned, when we've been in the army, we've always mourned about things, what were going on and stuff like that. But I've listened to this song and that lot. I think it's quite hilarious in some certain aspects of it. It's just a bit of... It didn't mean... I don't think the individual's done it maliciously. I think it's just a banter between lads and that. But I think they're all thinking the same. That's all it is. It's harmless,
and is this
really.
the sort of humour you commonly had when you were serving, that people would say everything's terrible and the top brass are absolutely useless and out of touch?
Oh, yeah. We'd always mourn. Make we've always done. We've done it for years and years and years. It's just like, whatever. It's just we make jokes out of each other all the times. We've got a dark sense of humour in the military. We've always have done it. That's what gets us by.
And it's just been taken too seriously and blown out of proportion. Perhaps by oversensitive military bods.
I don't know. It's just people are just blowing this out of proportion. And I hope the individual's not going to get into trouble for what he's done.
Let's hope not.
He hasn't done no bad in my eyes.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Monday the 13th of April, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Dawn Neeson.
Well done for remembering my name. OK, big stories coming up this hour. The countdown is on for Donald Trump's Strait of Hormuz blockade.
10 o'clock tomorrow, we have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil.
But the UK will not be involved in Trump's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, which starts this afternoon at 3 p.m, allegedly. Will China force its way through?
That's the big question, isn't it? And new EU rules return. European Union trade laws may be imposed on Britain without a full Commons vote. Another Brexit betrayal?
The NHS on life support. A new report shows our health services falling behind other wealthy nations, leaving patients with the poorer survival rate. This was the response of the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting.
OK, and lunchbox lockdown. Found out why it's the end of Fish and Chip Friday on the school menu. Nanny state, anyone?
And the Southport inquiry will today publish its finding to prove answers on why and how the authorities failed to stop the killer in 2024.
I'm here to win. I am here to win.
What did you do?
Meanwhile, over in Hungary, Viktor Orban concedes defeat to opposition leader Peter Megel after 16 years in power. Oh, we have a parrot taking a plunge. We're interviewing a parrot in a submarine.
No, you're interviewing the parrot.
I'm interviewing a parrot in a submarine because I like interviewing parrots and it makes a lot of sense. It's a great story. It's a bit of fun.
Certainly is, and we need fun because the world's a bit bleak at the moment, isn't it? As ever, we'd like to know what you think, so why don't you send your views and post your comments by visiting.
It's gbnews.com/your say, or you can scan the QR code, which is not on your screen at the moment, oh dear. But first, let's get the news headlines.
Well, this is Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK.
Happy Monday.
With me.
Yes, I am.
Sorry for the slight chaos earlier.
Notoriously never remembers my name. He calls me either Bev.
You are Bev.
Or Miriam.
Yes.
and Doris, I think you called me once.
I think I probably did.
Doris actually quite suits me, to be honest with you.
I might even call you Sam Francis.
Now, that would be nice, because Sam is a bit gorgeous, so you can call me Sam anytime.
There we are.
That works.
Now, we're doing our show today, but we want to just say a few words about our colleague, Eamonn Holmes.
We did indeed. As you know, I was hosting on Saturday at lunchtime when the news broke that our lovely colleague, breakfast show host Eamonn Holmes, had suffered a stroke last week. If you were with me on Saturday, you know so many of you got in touch. It was wonderful. We sent all the messages on to him, who is recovering in hospital. His family and loved ones are with him, and his eldest son Declan put a lovely message out thanking everybody, and his two little granddaughters.
Oh, aren't they cute?
Who are the sweet, and Eamonn absolutely dotes on them. He loves those little girls, and they put a lovely message out as well to their granddad. So thank you so much for all your messages. We are forwarding them on to Eamonn, and if you want to send some more in today, gbnews.com/your say, and we'll pass them on, because you know when you're feeling poorly, Andrew.
Exactly. And
really
also,
helps.
Eamonn, if you're watching or listening, we are sending you lots of love and best wishes, and you would be thrilled to know how many messages have come in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 100.
He is a legend.
He is a legend, yeah.
Ever since I can remember, he's been on breakfast television.
Oh, well, I mean, the very first day that I told this story on Saturday, the very first day that Eamonn was doing his first shift on breakfast TV, I was working for the Sun newspaper, and I was like about 12. Eamonn was about 15 at the time. And I was sent to do the day in the life of Eamonn Holmes, that legendary. So he was nervous. It was his first day on breakfast TV. I was very nervous rookie on the Sun, and we both ended up sitting on this sofa not knowing what the hell we were doing. He was absolutely great. You know what really put me at ease, and this is what Eamonn's gift is, right? He's a brilliant broadcaster, but he's also a lovely man. Really put my ease because he started talking about football. So we started chatting about football, and I loved him from there.
That would have been difficult with me.
It would have been very difficult with you, and it was Man United and West Ham, and I think we'd just beaten Man United at the time, so.
The great thing about Eamonn, one of the many great things I love about Eamonn, is his Irish charm.
It really is. So, Eamonn, if you are watching Big Man, and we know you probably are, we are sending so much love. Get well soon. And don't forget, we've got a trickle ball to win. Come on, we need you for that one.
And also, so get voting for him. Let's go to the news headlines now with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. It's just gone at 9:30. The top stories this hour. Opposition parties have criticised the Prime Minister's plans to limit MPs' roles in decisions on closer alignment with the EU. Under proposed legislation, the UK could adopt certain EU single market rules, including food standards, without a full parliamentary vote. Ministers say it's about streamlining regulation, but critics argue it sidelines Parliament. Well, oil prices have surged again after the US moved to impose a blockade on Iranian shipping. Peace talks between Tehran and Washington collapsed at the weekend. The UK says it will not join any US-led blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, despite claims from US President Donald Trump. Sir Keir Starmer is under pressure over the Chagos Islands deal after it was dropped from the next parliamentary agenda. The Conservatives say the Prime Minister must admit the agreement is effectively dead, but ministers insist talks are ongoing. More than 21,000 NHS jobs could be cut by 2028, according to new figures. Unison, the union, warns frontline roles are at risk, while the government says extra funding has increased staffing and reduced reliance on agency workers. Up to 25,000 carers could have their debts reduced or even cancelled under a government review. Around 200,000 cases will be reassessed after years of confusion over earnings rules. And deep-fried food could be banned from school menus under new government plans. Sugary desserts would also be limited, with more fruit and vegetables required in what ministers call a major overhaul of standards. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and me, Dawn Neeson, although he won't call me Dawn for the rest of the show, so I don't know why I bother saying it.
Might. Now, in the latest extraordinary twist in the extraordinary events since Donald Trump declared war on Iran, the President has announced the United States will now blockade any and all ships from 3 p.m. today attempting to use the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I worry about this, Dawn, a lot, not least because at the weekend 2 Chinese tankers went through unimpeded by Iran because they're on Iran's side. But if they try and go through to test the President's resolve, what happens?
What's going to happen? And 50% of China's oil goes through the Straits of Hormuz. So what is going to happen? I mean, will Trump try and physically stop those tankers?
This is a massive escalation.
The blockade of the blockade only applies to ships that are picking up from Iranian ports.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a grey area there that can be used so Chinese oil can go through another way and pick up another port. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it is worrying.
It certainly is. The Prime Minister is making a statement in the Commons later today about what's happening in Iran, but I suspect he's probably not much in the loop on this because, as we know, relations between him and the President ain't great.
Well, we're not involved. We're not involved. We do have a minesweeper out there, evidently. OK. And meanwhile, the United States Central Command has warned that the blockade of Iran's ports in the Strait will begin at 3 p.m. UK time after attempts to secure that ceasefire in the Middle East completely collapsed.
Now, a spokesman for the government confirmed the UK won't join the blockade, saying the government continues to support freedom of navigation in the Strait. Sir Keir Starmer's spokesperson said, this is what the spokesperson said.
All the time the strait is shut or not free for navigation in the way it should be, that means that oil and gas is not getting to market. That means the price is going up. That means everybody listening to this is facing higher energy bills. And I don't want that to happen. I want their energy bills to be stabilised and lower. And so it is, in my view, vital that we get the strait open and fully open. And that's where we've put all of our efforts.
That wasn't the Prime Minister's official spokesman because they don't give interviews. That was, of course, the Prime Minister speaking on BBC 5 Live, and he is clearly in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, understandably so, because we are an ally, but we're not perceived as an ally by Donald Trump. Overnight, he once again called our Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. Peace in our time, kind of.
Let's talk to former Army officer Andrew Fox. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Can you explain to us, really, how a blockade of a blockade, which is effectively what the President is proposing, works? And are we right to be concerned about China, bearing in mind they are the other superpower? They're on the side of Iran. Their ships went through the Strait of Hormuz at the weekend, and Trump's blockade would presumably mean they can't get through. What does that mean?
Well, there are really two halves to this. The first half is blockading Iranian oil to try and choke off the regime's lifeline, to choke off their economic means of survival. And then the second half is to try and force open the Strait of Hormuz for everyone else. So that's quite a big, tricky and tactical mission that the United States have set there. And the UK role in that will be minesweeping to help get the Strait of Hormuz open rather than anything to do with trying to block off ships that are transporting oil to China or anywhere else. And yes, I think you've hit the key issue here, is if you decide to go for an opposed boarding where you do it by force of arms, a Chinese flagged vessel being intercepted in international waters is an extremely big diplomatic deal. And that's going to be a really fine balancing line, I think. And it has huge implications for potential escalation elsewhere in the world. Most notably in the Pacific area of operations.
Andrew, what does it mean for us, for the UK? I mean, I know it sounds selfish to keep coming back to what it means for us, but, you know, we do have minesweepers out there, evidently. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how many we've got operational at the moment, but we do have minesweepers out there. But once again, Keir Starmer is saying we are not involved in this war. I mean, are we? Should we be?
Well, we're certainly involved economically and to an extent diplomatically. I don't think we should have British service personnel firing any kind of ammunition down in the Gulf. So the military aspect, I think, is not one where the UK really has a role. First of all, we don't have that much to send, and secondly, the Americans have it more in hand than any extra British support would improve. So, I think we're in a place where the oil prices from this are really going to affect us. The reason you're paying £80 to fill up your car is because of what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. The reason parts of the global south are facing a potential famine because fertilizer products aren't getting through. That's a result of this war. Even down to your phone or your laptop or anything with a microchip. You need helium to make the microchips. Huge amounts of helium come out through that strait. And so factories in places like Taiwan are now seeing helium shortages, which is going to drive up the price of electronics. So for the UK, this every aspect of our lives these days will be affected by the price rises coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. So yes, we're involved, whether we like it or not, but we don't add a huge amount militarily. What we should be focusing on is getting that strait open.
And it's a very narrow waterway. We know America's got large aircraft carriers out there. How do you envisage, Andrew, if the president is if he actually enforces this blockade, how do you envisage they physically do it?
So if we're talking about actually freeing the Strait of Hormuz and getting that clear, the first thing you have to do is suppress the Iranians' land-based ability to hit shipping. So rockets, they have a huge reduction in the number of rockets available to them, thanks to the efforts of Israel and America over the last few weeks. But they still have some, and they have a range of up to 300 miles. So that's a really tricky one. You have to stop the Iranian ability to hit ships from the land. You also have to make sure they don't have a water-based means of attacking shipping. So any of those small vessels that we know they use to sort of swarm ships passing through, they all have to be destroyed or neutralised as well. So that's the very first thing you do before you even think about putting a minesweeper anywhere near the place. Once you're happy that you can't be struck from the land or the sea, then you can start sending minesweepers through to clear that strait and make sure there's nothing lurking in the water that might damage shipping. And only when you've done that could you declare the Strait of Hormuz open. And then, of course, you need to maintain it. It's not a one-off operation. It's going to have to be continual.
Well, can I jump in there, Andrew? It sounds to me a complicated operation and not straightforward. So it's not like he's going to be able to end the blockade this week.
I'd be surprised unless the Iranians themselves back down from the economic pressure that we're seeing from the blockade. Remember, that's the other half of the equation. That's probably the best bet for getting the strait open. But in terms of forcing it open militarily, that's not a quick or easy mission.
Andrew, I was lucky enough to interview one of the captains of the oil tankers who have been stranded out there since the 28th of February when this started. He was terrified. He's watched other stranded tankers being blown up literally next door to his ship. He was terrified about what was going to happen next, whether he'd be able to get through the straits. It was a UAA tanker, so nothing political going on there. But if the minesweepers, the British minesweepers, go in there and they are hit by one of these missiles or the drones or the mines, what happens then? Are we dragged into it? It's one of our ships that have been attacked.
Yeah, and that's a huge political question. Look, when we say dragged into it, I mean, we have to consider what capabilities we actually have right now to get further involved if we decide that we do want to swing in and escalate here. We could contribute a variety of sort of intelligence assets, overflights from aircraft. We might be able to deploy a limited number of some of the Royal Air Force jets who've been in a defensive role around Qatar and Bahrain. But in terms of, suddenly bringing the weight of British firepower to this battle, it's not going to happen because we don't have very much. This is a symptom of years of running down our armed forces that go back over multiple governments. And it turns out that having a powerful ability to project force and protect key waterways is a really important thing for an island nation. So the key takeaway for me, if I'm sat in Downing Street, is that we need to put money towards our armed forces. We need to make sure they're in a place where we can actually influence things like this, should it happen again in future.
OK, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. Former Army officer Andrew Fox there on the situation of the blockade of the blockade.
He was fascinated, but it's not terribly reassuring, is it?
It's not, that's the trouble. And you know, your question about where does this end? I mean, this could go on and on and on.
And on and on.
It depends. I mean, and what action are China going to take?
And we know there are hundreds of these small craft lurking in inlets all around the Hotel. I mean, the one thing that Iran knows how to protect is the Strait of Hormuz, because it is its economic lifeblood.
Exactly, and the coastline is very, very complicated, lots of small islands. And Iran said at the weekend they were getting more of their troops on that coast.
They were. Now, still ahead, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeton, will respond to a damning new report about the ongoing crisis in the NHS.
Up next, though, remember the good old days of chicken nuggets, smiley faces and jam roly-poly at school lunchtime? Well, find out there'll be a very distant memory soon.
I was sceptical about that. But first, here's the forecast of some of that elusive holiday sun.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It's rather mixed across the Mediterranean for the next few days. Plenty of sunshine across Spain, the risk of some thunderstorms for Italy. Fairly cloudy skies on Tuesday across the Canary Islands, but plenty of sunny spells for Portugal, much of Spain as well, but frequent showers across Italy, some of these stretching across to Greece, but largely dry across Turkey and towards Cyprus as well. Some spells of hazy sunshine as we move through into Tuesday afternoon. The next few days also remain largely dry with sunny spells.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
I don't think that Owen's message of God is the greatest was offensive. It didn't offend me. I'm a Christian. I don't think that's an offensive message. But I think we need to be really clear. What if other religious views that we would find offensive were expressed on the pitch? What if a Muslim said homosexuality is a sin across their shirt, for example, or a Catholic said abortion is a crime? I think we just need to be really clear that we keep sport free from religion and politics, a kind of neutral space. And I think the rules need to be crystal clear and applied impartially. The Premier League is actually a success story in terms of real multiculturalism, isn't it? In terms of real millions of, hundreds of different cultures and faiths and skin colours. And it's about skill. And it's about bringing people together. And lots of
something like this, then, mate, I think for me, is petty, really, because there's other massive things going on in football. For instance, social media, professional footballers being racially abused, social media, Ibrahim Konate just last week. There's bigger issues than this for the FA, the Premier League to sanction. And, in the old days, we used to have T-shirts on with, I'll be back home at 10, love, I'll have rice with me curry when I get in. Or congratulations on your baby daughter. I love you, Mum, it's your birthday. I mean, come on.
We live in such a polarised and divided world. Everything is argumentative now. Everything is pro-Brexit, anti-Brexit. You're this, you're that, you're right, you're left. But lots of fans, it's just a relief to go somewhere where they don't have to be polarised and divided and where they're actually united in one thing, which is a beautiful game.
The People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it is coming up to 10 to 10, and this is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Do you remember your school meals, school lunch? Well, in England, they're set for a major overhaul. Didn't they do this with Jamie Oliver 20 years ago?
20 years ago, but hey, that's a bit of a moot point.
Jamie school dinners.
Yeah, there were. New government rules will ban foods like chicken nuggets on your screen there, fish, chips, and the scrumptious, who wrote this, not me, jam roly-poly.
This is the biggest shake-up since Jamie Oliver, which was 2005. But this is, but we're asking, is this nanny state Britain or is it sensible? And actually, I think we should ask our kids to eat sensible food in school.
I keep coming back to where the parents are.
Yeah.
Teachers' jobs is to teach. Any case, if you want to see old school dinners, do you have any pictures? Email them in to gbviews@gbnews.uk. Oof. OK. What was your least favourite?
Friday fish. It was disgusting.
It was disgusting.
It was. I went to a Catholic junior school, Holy Family School in Swindon, and then St Joe's School. We had Friday fish, and it was soaked in butter, and it was full of bones, and you had to eat it, and the bones just... it was disgusting.
So you'll be happy with this ruling then, because no more fried fish, no more chips. Let's talk now to child nutritionist Charlotte Sterling-Reid. Charlotte, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you back these plans?
I am really happy to see these. It has been 10 years. The food environment has changed hugely in those 10 years. Lots of children, I think about 60% of children have 60% of their diet is ultra-processed foods. We need a real good shake-up of what is on the menu. And also, I totally take on board what you're saying about the nanny state, but actually, children go to school for an education. They go to school to learn. And part of learning is learning about balanced diet, learning about nutritious food. And for me, it's so imperative that these changes are started to be rolled out and we have this consultation. So yes, I'm for it.
Charlotte, can you explain to Andrew and I, when we went to school, we didn't have any of this guidance, we had a load of rubbish to eat, and yet there weren't that many fat children in the club. I can barely remember any fat children. That's because we played outside and we sort of like, you know, we had PE lessons.
We didn't have processed food at home. I think that may be the factor.
Absolutely. So much has changed in our food environment. You know, we have access to a lot more ultra-processed foods. Even the fact that, for example, most of us get all of our foods from one supermarket now. It's not from local groceries. And also, a lot of the time, we have two parents who are working now as well. So there isn't someone at home who can easily cook meals. So there is so much change. And as I said, around 60% of some children's food intake is from ultra-processed foods alone. Also, we don't have any lessons around cooking in schools. There aren't messages about how to cook and how to prep meals being necessarily shown at home. So we really need a huge shake-up. I spend so much of my time talking about child nutrition, how to feed children good food, but it really takes a lot of willpower for parents to be wanting to do that. And we really need food at school to improve in order for some children to have a healthy, balanced meal every single day.
Charlotte, if I had £1 for every time I've heard a politician say, and of course we've got to be careful what they're eating outside the school playground, we've got to stop fast food shops being right by schools. They never do. They never stop it. It carries on, and the fast food chains prosper because of school kids coming out at lunchtime, coming out after school. You see them, you see these kids munching into their burgers, and then presumably they have dinner when they get home.
Yeah, this is the trouble. I think that the environment that we live in is really difficult, and young children, of course, are always going to go and, you know, choose the foods that they want to choose. But really what we need to do is start at a very much a younger age. So, you know, there's been new nursery guidelines sent out as well at the end of last year. We need to be improving what children are being offered from a very young age, because we know that actually what children are familiar with tends to have an impact on the foods that they choose as they get older. So yes, we want to change what's being offered at schools, but we need to go even earlier than that. We need to start what are children fed at the very beginning of their lives and what are they being fed at nursery, as well as changing what they're being offered at food at school, because what they get used to, the patterns of eating track from younger children to older adults. So we really need to be making changes earlier as well.
OK, Charlotte, thank you so much. That's Charlotte Sterling-Reid there, child nutritionist.
And I thought Rennie Hunterkamp was brilliant earlier this morning, GP Rennie Hunterkamp, pointing out that some of these school breakfast clubs, which the taxpayer pays for, a lot of the food is sponsored by PepsiCo.
Well,
what?
Absolutely. And
How is that?
And both my parents worked when we were kids as well, and we still managed to survive. Any case, we've got a story coming up that will really make your blood boil. It's all about the latest Brexit betrayal through the back door. This is Britain's Newsroom on Britain's favourite morning channel on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M8 westbound at Junction 8, the on-slip from the A89 at Coatbridge Road is partly blocked due to a recent crash, causing traffic congestion. On the M4 eastbound, expect significant queues between Junction 45 and Junction 43 in the early morning hours. In Leeds, the M62 westbound is slow-moving between Junction 31 and Junction 30, resulting in approximately 15 additional minutes of delay for commuters. Meanwhile, on the trains, both Cross Country and Great Western Railway are reporting service disruption at Gloucester Station, affecting multiple routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck!
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
Good morning. It is 10 o'clock on Monday, the 13th of April. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pitt and me, Dawn Neeson.
The countdown's on for Donald Trump's blockade, yes, his blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
10 o'clock tomorrow, we have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil.
Meanwhile, you won't be surprised to learn that Britain has stayed back. The UK will not be involved in Donald Trump's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, which starts at 3 o'clock UK time this afternoon. But will China force their way through?
Do you remember when we left the European Union? Well, it seems the rules are returning.
It's 10 years in June since Britain left the European Union. Millions have voted for it, but guess what? Labour government wants to reverse a bit of it with no votes.
Yeah, from Brexit to the NHS, this is a joy of a morning, isn't it? NHS on life support, a new report shows our health services falling behind other wealthy nations, leaving patients with poorer survival rates. The health secretary responds this morning.
And lunchbox lockdown. Find out why it could be the end of Fish and Chip Friday on the school menu. Is this the nanny state taking over?
And the Southport inquiry will today publish its findings to provide answers on why and how authorities failed to stop that killer in 2024 and those 3 little angels lost their lives.
I'm here to win. I am here to win.
Well, he didn't win, did he? In Hungary, Viktor Orban concedes defeat to opposition leader Peter Magyar after 16 years in power, and it wasn't even close.
And the story of the day, a thrill-seeking parrot called Bibi has gone viral after diving in the Bahamas in his owner's homemade submarine. You can see it on your screen there. He'll join us later, the owner and the parrot.
I wonder if Viktor Orban's regretting having J.D. Vance, the US Vice President, coming out to support him last week.
It does be a bit of the kiss of death, doesn't it?
Because this is the man who was also sent by Trump into the peace negotiations with Pakistan. It lasted 21 hours and he pulled out. They were never going to work. Do we think Donald Trump was sending him out to lose?
Do you think he's throwing him under the bus?
Well, it's politics. It's a ruthless business.
I mean, J.D. Vance does seem a bit unlucky. I mean, not only the Hungary elections, also when he went to Munich to talk to the EU leaders, he managed to upset everybody there. He went to Greenland as well, upset them as well, so they were more anti-Trump.
Because also you'd have expected Marco Rubio, who is the Foreign Secretary, effectively, the Secretary of State, to have been perhaps conducting the negotiations with Pakistan, but J.D. Vance. And as I say, he went to Hungary and railed against foreign leaders interfering in other people's elections and interfered in Hungary's election.
Yes, it is interesting. It'll be very interesting. The thing is with the Hungary election, though, I mean, it's still a centre-right party that's in charge.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone's going, oh, this is amazing. It's, the left are getting back in the... No, it's not. It's still a centre-right party that has won.
Also, look, Viktor Orban had been in power 16 years.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it is a very long time.
You get stale. You
get
get stale.
Can you imagine a Prime Minister in this country, the current one, being in power for that long?
I'm struggling with him for not even 2 years. Let's not put 16 years on the country. But remember, Mrs Thatcher did 11 and a half.
She did, yes, absolutely.
Although some would argue possibly she should have gone after 10.
Well, there is that as well. I mean,
time of her own making rather than somebody else's.
Yeah, but at least, I mean, not even a political point, but she did kind of make a decision occasionally.
Funny that.
Without consulting with too many lawyers.
She did as ever. Tell us what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting.
Yeah, gbnews.com/your say. And, of course, send your wishes in to our lovely Eamonn Holmes, who is in hospital still recovering from the stroke he had on Tuesday. Friends and family are with him. He is getting better. He has spoken to us and he's thankful for all your messages, so do keep them coming in as well. The Pat show coming up. It's a cracking show, isn't it?
Certainly is.
Including that parrot in a submarine. What's not to like? But first is the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 10 o'clock, the top story from the newsroom this hour. Opposition parties have criticised the Prime Minister's plans to limit MPs' roles in decisions on closer alignment with the EU. Under proposed legislation, the UK could adopt certain EU single market rules, including food standards, but without a full parliamentary vote. Ministers say it's about streamlining regulation, but critics are arguing it's sidelining Parliament. The UK has said it will not join any US-led blockade of the Strait of Hormuz after Donald Trump claimed the US Navy would shut down the key shipping route. US Central Command says operations could begin within hours. Downing Street, though, says the priority is keeping the strait open, warning it must not be subject to tolling, and is now working with France and other allies on a coalition to protect freedom of navigation. It comes after failed US and Iran talks in Islamabad over the weekend, with Donald Trump saying Tehran is unwilling to give up nuclear ambitions. Hungary's long-serving Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been voted out after 16 years in power. Orban, a close ally of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, had faced growing criticism from the European Union. His defeat comes just days after the US Vice President J.D. Vance publicly backed him for re-election. Sir Keir Starmer says it's a historic moment for European democracy and congratulated opposition leader Peter Magyar on victory. The 45-year-old leader of the centre-right Tidza party is now set to take power, and he's promised to repair relations with the EU and with NATO. Here, Sir Keir Starmer's facing mounting pressure to explain the future of the Chagos Islands deal after plans to hand sovereignty to Mauritius were left out of the next parliamentary agenda. The £35 billion agreement, which includes leasing back the Diego Garcia military base, has run into opposition from Washington. The Conservatives say the Prime Minister must now come clean and admit the deal is, they say, effectively dead. But ministers insist negotiations are still ongoing. Thousands of NHS jobs could disappear across England, according to new research. Unison, the union, claims at least 21,000 roles are due to be cut by 2028, as trusts try to balance their books. The union says staff are already stretched to breaking point, and the government says extra investment has already brought in more doctors, more nurses and mental health workers, and makes no apology for cutting spending on agency staff. Well, that comes as a new report also says switching the NHS to a European-style insurance model would not fix its problems. The IPPR says there is no structural silver bullet, arguing the real issue is years of underinvestment, not the way the service is funded. Ministers say the findings back Labour's case for reforming the NHS and not replacing it. The government is promising relief for unpaid carers, with 25,000 across the country expected to have debts reduced, wiped out or refunded. 200,000 people with historic carers allowance overpayments will also have their cases reviewed. Ministers admit too many carers were left with debts through no fault of their own after years of confusing earning rules. British prisons are facing what's been described as a vicious circle of violence as experienced officers are leaving the service in record numbers. New figures show staff experience is at its lowest level in 15 years, and unions are warning the loss of veteran officers is making prisons less safe. The government, though, says recruitment is improving and resignation rates are falling. And school dinners are facing their biggest shake-up in years under government plans. Deep-fried food would be banned, sugary desserts sharply limited, and schools told to put menus online. Sir Keir Starmer says the changes are about helping children to eat better and easing pressure on families. But critics say the rules will only work if schools are properly backed to deliver them. Those are the latest headlines. For now, I wonder if GB News should ban digestives or rich teas. I know someone who eats too many of them, Andrew Pearce.
I think you've been defamed on air.
Thank you so much, Sam Francis. It's a bit cheeky on this Monday morning, isn't he?
It is true. We found out the rich tea biscuits went missing last week, and Dawn Newsome was found with her fingers in the...
No, I was not. I prefer a ginger nut, to be honest with you. I wouldn't touch your rich teas. I'm a ginger nut girl.
This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Dawn Newsome, in for Miriam Cates.
I am, indeed, yes. And thank you so much for all your messages coming in already this morning. Many of you are getting in touch to share your well wishes to Eamonn Holmes after he suffered a stroke last week.
Jackie says, sending my love, blessings and prayers to Eamonn. May our Lord walk with and support you and give you strength through this time. Amen. That's a nice message.
That's a lovely message, and Eamonn will appreciate those. Meanwhile, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, also sent a message in. Let's have a listen.
On behalf of myself and the government, I just want to wish Eamonn Holmes well and hope he makes a fulsome recovery. We're all thinking about him.
Oh, that was very moving.
Very nice of him. And Wes Streeting is, I think, one of the more competent, communicative members of the Cabinet.
Yes.
And I think Eamonn would have been quite touched by that.
No, he would have been. But we are sending all the messages. Eamonn is touched by all of them, to be honest with you.
And Andrew Griffith, who was the Tory business spokesman, was on breakfast this morning. He also sent the best wishes on behalf of the official opposition.
Yeah, no, absolutely lovely. So do keep them coming in, won't you? And not just about Eamonn, obviously, we are passing them on, though, but lots of you are getting in touch about the other stories, about maybe J.D. Vance being sacrificed by President Trump over the peace talks in Iran, and sort of like maybe J.D. Vance doesn't have the best of times, does he? We're sent to Hungary, and Viktor Orban loses the election. Greenland, that didn't go well either. Munich didn't go well. And Gary's just said, Dawn and Andrew, don't forget that J.D. Vance met the Pope. And then the Pope died.
He did, actually, yeah. Talking of the Pope, by the way, have you seen that Trump has attacked Pope Leo, who is on a tour of Africa now, his first overseas trip? 334 words, I counted them, on Truth Social. An attack on the Pope, saying he doesn't know anything about foreign policy. Look, you could argue that Donald Trump's not the greatest authority on foreign policy, looking at what's happening with the war in Iran. But the Pope, I've checked, there are 77 million registered Roman Catholics in the United States. This is the first American Pope.
Yes.
I think that's a pretty strange thing to do.
And he went on about, well, I much prefer the Pope, because as Andrew just said, he is American. I much prefer the Pope's brother, and it's like, I just don't know. And it's like every morning you wake up, I mean, you're probably the same, but, you know, as I follow Donald Trump on social media, Truth Social, and every morning you wake up and there's this another very long message.
The Pope called for an end to the war. He's not the first world leader to call... he's not a political leader, is he? But he's got a big following. He's not the first leader to speak out and say, end the war.
Look, and he is a religious leader. That's literally their job, not to want people to die.
Exactly.
Oh, dear lordy, honestly. And lots of people get in touch about junk food as well. Jack says, great to see the government is now taking action to remove junk food from our schools.
Yeah, I do wonder, because we both made the same point earlier. When we were kids, we were obviously much older, and there weren't very many fat children. And now there are lots of fat children. You walk past school playground and a lot of them are overweight, albeit, you would say, obese.
But so much has changed since then. I mean, we sort of like...
PE, playing outside.
What did you do after school?
Yeah.
I mean, you went out on your bike, you climbed trees, you didn't go up to your bedroom and go onto social media straight away.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
And there was no money for junk food.
Well, this is the other thing, and it's like we had the nutrition on earlier, and nutritional knowledge goes, oh, both parents are out of work these days, they can't afford to look after it. My parents, working class background, similar, went out to work. I was left looking after my sister from sort of like the age of 8 years old.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were quite healthy.
Fizzy drinks were high days and holidays.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Was it.
Special treats.
Yeah. Now, Labour has been accused of yet another Brexit betrayal. Whichever way you voted in the referendum, this should make your blood boil, because they're going to sign up to EU rules without any vote in Parliament, so we will be mere spectators.
Okay, yeah, Sir Keir Starmer is set to use the Henry VIII powers. It's going back a while.
Oh.
Not even you
chop
remember
someone's
that.
head off.
Actually, it's not a bad idea. To align UK with the EU and align Britain with future single market regulations.
Let's talk to our political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, morning.
Morning, Andrew. Morning, Dawn. Yeah, this summer's a big moment for Brexiteers. It's June. It's 10 years since Britain's voted by a big majority to leave the European Union. And guess what this government's doing? They're going to try and align us more closely with the European Union through what they call an EU-UK Brexit reset bill. It'll be in the King's Speech, which sets out policies for the next parliamentary term, about 18 months or so, starting in May. And it's going to align us more closely. It's called dynamic alignment. And what that means is that as the EU changes laws on areas like food and drink, carbon emissions and electricity trading, we then have to follow those changes despite having no vote over it. And the government will change the law in this country using this new bill by simply using what they call secondary legislation. That's voting it through without a division in Parliament, so no actual vote of MPs. These are called Henry VIII powers, as you say. They were used controversially when Theresa May was trying to get through her Brexit deal against a Commons that didn't want it, famously, and that battle took place over 3 years. So it's ironic, really, that after that immense vote, one of the biggest votes ever for a single issue, this government is looking to unwind it, not by a vote, but simply using a kind of all-encompassing bill to be passed after the King's Speech in May. Now, people are very, very upset. I've been speaking to Sir Bill Cash moments ago. He, of course, was a Conservative MP who chaired the European Scrutiny Committee. He called this a profound infringement of our sovereignty. He said this is a massive betrayal. British sovereignty and democracy, and it will be the first step towards rejoining without a vote, he says. He's very concerned. We'll try and get to him later on GB News. The Prime Minister, he's been saying this in the past hour, that this legislation will make trade easier with the European Union. He also says we live in a world where there's massive conflict, great uncertainty, and he strongly believes that the UK's best interests are in a stronger, closer relationship with Europe, whether on defence, security, energy inevitably, and also our economy, and that's where it sits. So concerns here for people who believe in sovereignty, concerns for people who believe that the UK is better out of the European Union and not being a rule taker, as we will be.
You shouldn't forget, of course, that his last job in opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, under Jeremy Corbyn, was, before he became Labour leader, was shadow Brexit secretary, and his job, he was the architect of the second referendum plan. He wanted a second referendum because him and his mates in the Labour Party never accepted the will of the British people. They've never come to terms with it. They never have. Now, I think the Tories have made a bit of a hash of Brexit post the referendum result, but the result was clear. It's not been changed, but they're doing it by the back door.
And there are many reasons why it's better to be outside the European Union. I should say, while I'm talking to you, if you look at that widescreen shot, do not adjust your set. Big Ben is saying it's midday. That's because they are fixing the clocks on Big Ben. So don't worry, viewers, it's only about 20 past 10. There we are, zooming in. I'll move my head. There we are. So it's midday in Westminster, but in real life, outside of the place I live in, it's actually about 10 past 10.
There we go, you see, GB News, always on the money.
Oh, absolutely, and I quite like that shot.
Very good spot, Chris, well done. That's our political editor, Christopher Hope, on the money with that story.
You know what, I hadn't even noticed being the train. Is it actually now 17 minutes past 10, by the way? Hadn't even noticed.
There we are.
Trained observer.
Time for the Great British Giveaway now. The clock is ticking.
Ooh.
Talking of, boom, boom. This is your chance to win that fabulous four-berth motorhome and £25,000 tax-free. It's worth more than £92,000. Here's how you do it.
Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new four-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this stylish home from home comes with all of the features you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £67,000. Alloy wheels, solar panel, and pop-top bunks for an optional sleeping area. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You doing this?
OK, good luck on that one. OK, we have some breaking news for you. Pope Leo has told reporters that he plans to continue speaking out against war after US President Donald Trump's direct attack on the leader of the 1.4 billion member church. The pontiff also said the Christian message was being abused. He says, I don't want to get into a debate with him, being Trump. I don't think that the message of the gospel is meant to be abused in the way that some people are doing.
You see, you pick a fight with the Pope, you're not always going to win that one.
No, very strong words from a Pope,
Very
actually.
strong, very strong. I actually, as a Roman Catholic, I'm quite intrigued by Pope Leo. I think he's intriguing, and I thought it was an extraordinary decision to have an American Pope.
Yes.
And I thought maybe there'll be a proper dialogue between the papacy and the White House. Well, that's not quite working out.
You would have thought, I mean, after President Trump put that social media post out overnight, literally very strong words attacking the Pope.
Now up next.
Yeah,
school dinners, or should we call them school lunches? Probably.
School dinner.
It's the school dinner.
School dinner.
I know. I mean, yeah, dinner. But we're going to tell you what's going to be happening to our school meals. There is a scant amount of detail, it has to be said.
Yeah, not even sure what department it's coming from, to be honest with you. But it's an announcement that something might happen. And the wonderful Renee Hunderkamp was on earlier on. And she goes, well, it probably won't happen.
We're going to go through that more with Annunziata Rees-Mogg and Matthew Torbett, both of whom, well, certainly Matthew, looking at him, like a jam roly-poly.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. We'll see you very soon.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
How significant is it that we are heading back to the moon now after all this time? So we're not landing this time, but the fact it's a precursor to that, isn't it?
It's significant because, one, we've got... The technology we have now is what we really need to go to the moon. We didn't really have it in the 60s. It was pushing to the very, very limits. But we have that technology now, so that's why it's quite important doing it. We also have a different sort of impetus now, because apart from the political impetus, with China wanting to go there and America wanting to go, and wanting the natural resources there, we now have private industry wanting to go. This mission is to test the spacecraft out to make sure it works. Lots of new equipment on board, so it's bigger than the Apollo spacecraft, so it's a much better piece of kit in that sense. And they will carry out lots of experiments as they're going towards the moon, both scientific experiments, testing out the spacecraft. Also, they'll be running out the test and safety procedures, checking on radiation. They've already had a big glitch on the spacecraft. The toilet wasn't working.
Well, that's very pretty significant, actually.
10 days you'd be up to your armpits in it, wouldn't you, really? So you've really got to get it right. So, yes, they've got it working again. So they worked through that problem. But that's good if you have a glitch like that. Can you work the problem while you're in space? They have done, so that's working quite well. So it's going to be hard work for the next... Well, it's 9 days now to go. Yeah. It's going to be hard work for the next 9 days. And it's important the public understand how we fly to the moon. The engine will fire... The spacecraft will reach 24,500 miles per hour. That's it, the engine's off and you coast. Earth's gravity tries to pull you back, so you're actually slowing down. On day 5, the moon's gravity is stronger, so that then you speed up. And then you go round the moon, and then it swings you back towards the Earth. If you travelled at 25,000 miles per hour, you'd miss the moon entirely and go into space.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello. You're not going to do any work this morning, are you?
Here.
It is 24 minutes past 10.
Come on,
This is
Bev.
Britain's Newsroom.
Please do that, Bev. Oh, no, sorry, it's Dawn Wilson.
with Andrew Pearce
Or is
and
it Sam Francis?
me, Bev, stroke Miriam, stroke Sam, stroke Doris, stroke whatever, but I'm actually called Dawn Neeson, but you can call me what you want, I don't really care.
I often do when you're not around.
I know.
We've got Matthew Talbot and Annunziata Rees-Mogg with us in the studio. Let's talk to you, Annunziata, because I know when you'll have seen these front pages, the Times, the Telegraph, the Guardian, the Mail, the Eye, we're back in Brexit. We're back in the EU.
It's absolutely a complete and utter betrayal of the biggest democratic vote this country's ever seen. And we haven't yet made the most of Brexit, but there have been benefits, and we have signed trade deals with countries across the world, countries that are growing, unlike the EU, which is shrinking and shrinking in importance. And Keir Starmer is going back on all the promises that were made. He is undertaking the reneging on the deal that he always wanted to, that he brought the cases against the Tory government to try and stop Brexit ever happening in the first place. Now he's in power, he's trying to get away with it, and he will sneak this in by the back door, initially just for one part, but then...
The Guardian say it'll be every sector of the economy.
It will then spread to every sector.
Matthew, this is a bit sneaky for the Labour Party, isn't it? I mean, the Labour Party about, power to the people.
He's a Remainer.
Listening to the
loves
voice.
it.
I was a reluctant Remainer. I thought both sides were performed terribly in the debate leading up to it. It was a bit like Pepsi and Coke. There was no sort of fresh orange juice available from what they were offering, in my view. Keir Starmer's obviously, a big supporter of Europe. The Henry VIII stuff doesn't bother me so much because it's been used a lot recently, both under Labour and the Conservatives, to pass through laws that they don't want to sit and argue about. And I think we have to come to terms in this country. We can either debate till the cows come home over a piece of legislation, or we can get stuff done. And nothing gets stuff done in this country. Nothing happens. We can disagree on whether it's the right thing to do.
That's fine when they're not controversial. This is immensely controversial. It wasn't in Labour's manifesto. They have no mandate to do it, and they can't even guarantee passing all elements of it in Parliament, so they bypass Parliament. It is getting rid not only of our democracy, but our sovereignty as a nation. The other trade deals we have done are non-sovereign affecting treaties, whereby we can trade, but we have no legal obligation to change the laws in this country. This is not like that. This is rule-taking from the EU with no comeback from the British whatsoever.
But right, so the trade deals are worth a pittance. That's probably why there's not going to be great changes. The EU is obviously I hate this discussion because I honestly couldn't care less. But if we're going to deal with it, they were our largest trading partner. Therefore, there's going to be things that will have to change.
America is our biggest trading partner, and if
for how much longer? Which is probably what he's got one eye on.
Keir Starmer has made sure we've fallen out with them, so that's really helpful.
No, I think deciding to not go into a war that's not just is a perfectly viable thing to do. And also, Donald Trump will be gone.
Can I just jump in? I mean, and Nancy's right, America is our largest trade partner. Are we going to say to them as well, you can have decree whatever you like on compliance and food and drink? We're not going to let America have that right, but we're going to let the European Union have that right.
No, but we've done it on other things for years, particularly around defence, which is now a big sticking point on what we're going to do with regards to their bases and whatnot. I think that we're not going back into Europe.
Tell us what to do on anything. The EU will be allowed to, yet again, and that's exactly what the British people voted against. It's a smokescreen.
I'll tell you what British people didn't vote for. I'll tell you what British people didn't vote for is my mate, and I don't think we should be dictating policy because of instances my mates have had. His father died last year. He went back to Coventry, he lives in Ireland. He filled a box full of his dad's old belongings and he wanted to take them home, and they're not really worth anything, so he put £1 was the worth at the post office. To send it back to the island, he had to fill in something like 27 pages of forms, which is utterly ridiculous and didn't used to happen pre-Brexit. He then couldn't actually get hold of them because you can't put £1 on anything anymore. Because of Brexit, you couldn't do that. You can't do that now, and you could then. Therefore, he went willy-nilly round the houses and had to pay £200. That is every day for small and medium-sized businesses in this country that want to trade with Europe and can't.
95% of British businesses have no trade with the EU whatsoever.
I'm not surprised because they've got to fill in forms upon forms.
And that hasn't changed since before Brexit. But under this dynamic alignment, every single one of those companies, 95% of British companies who have no benefit from trading with the EU will have to follow all EU rules in their area. Now, that
which
is...
are higher standard.
Even if they're not trading with the EU.
They don't have to do any trade whatsoever. So your local plumber, right the way through to big business. Literally every business has to follow EU
because they
rules.
hated all this, the EU.
Well, having higher standards.
27
they're not
countries
higher.
telling
If you look
us
at
what
animal welfare, they're
can't do.
horrific. We're reopening live animal transport. They're things we have stopped to protect.
I'd maybe have a look at the deal that we struck with Australia and New Zealand over lambing. That's horrific. The standards across other areas outside of the EU are almost far worse.
They don't tell us that our farmers have to comply with them.
What about the concept here, Matthew? This is a betrayal of the vote.
Have we rejoined?
No.
Well, there we go, then. It's not a betrayal of the vote. What we voted for, what all of us went into those voting booths to do, is it said, do you want to leave the EU? We left the framework of the EU. Unfortunately, as I said at the top of this, we didn't have a discussion over what that would look like. Certain people may have done, but there was no official line on what we'd leave, what we wouldn't. But the idea is we wouldn't be in the framework, we wouldn't have the elections, and therefore we didn't have a vote. There was nothing around single market or customs union, which I thought was a mistake from both sides, if I'm honest with you, either for or against it. So us creeping back in, yeah, I can see why people would be concerned. It's also knocked about 9% off our GDP, so if we can join a large trading bloc that may help that, then maybe that would be good.
Those statistics have been completely debunked, not least because we have still grown considerably more than, for example, Germany, which is the engine house economy.
You mean since we left the European Union?
Do you think people feel it at the minute?
No, I don't. I think we've got a terrible government who are trashing our economy, but they're not trashing it as badly as Germany is trashing it.
So the reason people aren't feeling it is the last 18 months.
But in their manifesto, Labour said we would not rejoin the customs union or the single market. This has the effect of doing both with no say.
And you won't hear me disagree. As I've said many times about this government, they don't have a mandate for at least 6 of the most, and maybe now 7 of the more unpopular things they've done. I'm not going to disagree with that. Do I think there will be an option come the next election because there'll be pressure from the Greens? Yes, possibly. And
is this politically driven by the Greens?
I think you could possibly see
so many votes on the left.
I think there's several things at play. You're having one eye on whether you want to have a closer relationship with Europe because you're unsure about the US president at the moment. I think if that changes in 2028, the relationship maybe goes back a little bit better. I think there's the potential to, go further with Europe politically because the Greens want to rejoin, the Lib Dems want to rejoin. I think a lot of Lib Dem votes go into the Greens at the minute. And from all intents and purposes, any poll I see, there's a large regret on people's side, or actually people wouldn't mind rejoining. I actually wouldn't support rejoining because we'll never get it as good as we had. They're going to punish us furthermore, and it was a mistake in my view to do it. It'd be a bigger mistake to actually rejoin. We've got to get on with it
Isn't
now.
the point here, regardless of whether you are a Brexiteer or a Remainer or what you think about the way it's gone, democracy?
Yeah.
There was a democratic vote, and this is, whatever way you come at it, is undoing it.
Well, but again, I said, have we rejoined? We haven't rejoined.
We haven't rejoined, but it's...
And the problem is, you said undoing it, fine. What are we undoing?
We're getting
we voted to leave.
Back with the students coming here, Matthew.
Yep.
How many? We don't know how many are coming yet.
But that's my point.
30 students up to the age of 30 coming here.
And some suggestions it should be increased to 35.
Yeah.
That all of this is rejoining by the back door. It is a betrayal of the biggest democratic vote we've had. But it is demonstrative of how this government doesn't actually believe in the British people. It believes it knows best how to run our country, and I think we can all see the evidence that the one thing they don't know how to do is make our country any good.
Swallowed a guff. I mean, what's in my... Nobody's going to notice this. This is the thing. I honestly...
But hold on a minute. You just said that businesses were suffering, so they are going to...
I mean, ordinary people sat at home. If we
notice?
rejoined tomorrow and nobody told anybody, only businesses would notice. Nobody knows. Nobody cares.
Every business is going to have to take the rules that this wretched organisation will impose.
Less forms, higher standards in many cases, particularly around food. No, food's not.
Talk to farmers about how much worse they are. There are all sorts of crops and fertilisers they'll no longer be able to use that are less harmful to our environment. They will have to have lower standards of animal care because
that isn't what
EU.
I'm happy to concede, but that's not what people tell me when I speak to them.
Whether you think it's a good idea or not, it can no longer ban things like foie gras on the grounds of cruelty because we're going under European standards. Not having a say in our own laws is why people voted to leave. Yes, on our borders, but also much more broadly. We will have to take these rules on everything. Also, we were told this was a once-in-a-lifetime vote. I'm afraid 1 decade is a very short lifetime.
Well, colour me shocked when politicians lie, I tell you what.
Matthew, because you're very well plugged into Labour, do you think it's conceivable that Starmer will go, if he's still leader of the Labour Party next election, which I think is unlikely, the Labour leader, Prime Minister, goes into next election in the manifesto committing to another referendum on taking us back in?
I don't think you can rule anything out. I'd be very surprised. And I think it would also maybe depend on who the leader is. I think, there'll be some leaders that may want to lean into that more, particularly London-based MPs. If it was to be a West Street and it's very popular in Ilford, maybe that's something. I think you've got to look at the country.
What about Angela Rayner?
I don't think Angela would do it.
Right.
I don't think Angela would do it. Oh, because she's under threat in hers. And then people are going to think of their own seats. Reform will take her seat, not the Greens.
Because this story is going to be a boon for reform.
Maybe. I mean, the way it's sold...
I absolutely think.
The way it's sold,
polling out
perhaps.
today that shows that of the majority of the Cabinet would lose their seats, but it's 14 of them to reform, 2 to the Greens.
Talking of the Cabinet, we're going to cross the floor now to listen to the Health Secretary West Streeting, who's responding to this report suggesting fatality rates in Britain are worse under the NHS.
Never before. We are living in volatile times. Old certainties are being challenged. Rights we thought secure are no longer guaranteed. Battles that were won must now be fought all over again. And that includes the very question of whether this country should have a national health service. We should be in no doubt, as Harry alluded to, that this is a fight that is brewing. And if it's a fight we have to have, then it's a fight that I am determined to win. 78 years on, memories are fading fast of life before the founding of the NHS. You'd have to be in your mid-80s or older to recall that time when wealth dictated health and illness threatened financial ruin as well as lives. Most of us can't remember, but we ought to listen to those who do. Because against the pervasive pessimism about our country's future, the questioning of whether we are capable of doing big things, and the cynical actors that are looking to exploit that mood, the NHS stands as a towering monument to the power of politics to change lives for the better. When the hospital almoner told Doris Herfling the suggested fee for the birth of her child, Doris had to haggle it down. She needed enough money left over to buy clothes for her baby. After the child was stillborn, the almoner said to Doris, "Now you haven't got a baby, perhaps you can afford to pay more." Things were far worse for those who couldn't get healthcare at all. Evelyn told Keith, with the same unsterilised pincers he used to pull the nails out of shoes, while old chaps sat around a bucket of blood watching for the entertainment. Families like Patricia Pascoe's tied around their necks a tarred rope, literally a rope dipped in the tar used on roads, to ward off whooping cough. And from the vantage point of a Salford corner shop, Robert Roberts saw how people self-diagnosed and self-medicated with quack cures, because where he lived, more people were sued in the county court for non-payment of doctors' bills than for any other reason. Back in 1940, infectious diseases like polio, diphtheria and rubella ran rampant. It was against this backdrop, out of the rubble of war, that Clement Attlee and Aneurin Bevan set out to do the most civilised thing in the world: put the welfare of the sick in front of every other consideration. It was an act of courage as well as conviction. They stared down the Conservative establishment to build a national health service. The Conservatives in Parliament voted against the National Health Service Bill 22 times. The press characterised the move as part of a socialist tyranny. The BMA fought the Labour government every step of the way, not much change there then. In fact, a former chair of the British Medical Association described the proposed NHS as, and I quote, "the first step, and a big one, to National Socialism as practised in Germany." The post-war Labour government took on all of that opposition in a 3-year fight and won. In doing so, they took the shame out of need. In place of fear, they brought hope. They gifted Britain the peace of mind that the National Health Service would be there for us when we needed it. On the 4th of July, 1948, mothers were charged 1 and 6 for the delivery of their baby, enough at the time to feed the entire family for a day. On the 5th of July, Anira Thomas was born at 1 minute past midnight, and her parents weren't charged a penny. And since that moment, a consensus has existed. There have always been passionate arguments over the levels of funding and the management of the health service. But as governments went from left to right, across the spectrum, across the decades, we have been broadly united on the need for a national health service as a publicly funded, universal service free at the point of need. David Cameron, someone who knew firsthand the care and compassion of the NHS, paid tribute to what he called, and I quote, "the precious principle we all hold dear and we all want to keep, of free healthcare for all who need it when they need it." Even Margaret Thatcher stood by, and I quote, "the principle that adequate healthcare should be provided for all regardless of ability to pay." But as opposition parties lurch further and further to the right, that consensus is fraying. It is always when the NHS is at its weakest that the siren voices grow loudest. And so, having left the NHS in the worst crisis in its history, the right now argues that it's unaffordable and should be abandoned. Not just in certain sections of the media and right-wing think tank pamphlets. Former Health Secretary Sajid Javid now advocates a mixed economy of social and private insurance alongside state subsidy. Kemi Badenoch has called for, and I quote, a serious cross-party national conversation about ending the principle of free at the point of use, or at least she did before she became leader of the opposition. Since then, the Conservatives have announced just one health policy in 21 months, so not really much of a conversation starter. But it's not just them. When Nigel Farage announced his shadow cabinet, he forgot to appoint a shadow health secretary. Now, that might be because if Farage becomes Prime Minister, there will be no NHS. Farage has said, and I quote, "We are going to have to move to an insurance-based system of healthcare." Just last year, he said, and I quote again, "I do not want it funded through general taxation. It doesn't work." What will come in its place? Farage says he's, and again I quote, up for anything, and unusually I believe him. But during this election campaign, we haven't heard a peep about what reform plans for the health service. We know what they're up to. They're keeping their powder dry and counting on us to fail. They want to say that if a Labour government can't turn around the NHS, then it's time to do away with Labour and the NHS. So once again, it falls to Labour, not simply to rebuild the NHS, but to win the argument for the NHS all over again. Amidst the cynicism and pessimism, people will only believe that things can get better when they see it for themselves, and they are beginning to. The NHS is now turning that corner. Waiting lists are at the lowest level in 3 years. 4-hour waiting times in A&E this winter were the best for 4 years. Ambulances are arriving faster than for half a decade. Patient satisfaction with access to general practice has risen from 60% when Labour came to office to 77% today. Staff retention is the best we've seen at any point during the past decade outside of the pandemic. We've recruited 2,000 more GPs, and we're ending the 8 a.m. scramble with online appointment requests. We promised 8,500 new mental health workers over the entire Parliament. We've recruited 8,000 more already and rolled out mental health support to schools covering an extra 900,000 children. In the first 6 months of the last financial year, we delivered an extra 1.8 million dental appointments. While we're doing all of that, the NHS is getting better bang for the taxpayer's buck, with productivity growing at 2.7%. We've achieved all of this at the same time as confronting record levels of demand and industrial action by resident doctors, and the NHS has done it all while living within its means. This is the first year in almost a decade where my department hasn't had to get the begging bowl out and ask the Chancellor for more in year. So change is starting, and it's starting to be felt. The latest patient satisfaction survey shows the biggest drop in dissatisfaction since 1998 and the first increase in satisfaction since before the pandemic. That is the difference a Labour government is making. We're showing that politics can change things, that voting does make a difference, that things can get better. But there is also a contradiction in these numbers. While patients themselves report services are improving and the NHS's data shows they are right, people are more fearful than ever about the future of the health service. Young people are increasingly voting with their feet. Last year, a survey found half of millennials are planning to use private healthcare in the next year. Employers are finding medical insurance an attractive incentive for young recruits. This presents an existential crisis for the NHS. If a generation of patients opts out, they'll eventually ask why they're paying so much in tax for a service they no longer use. This is the path to widening the health inequalities that we want to close, and it puts the future of the NHS itself at risk. So the case for the NHS needs to be remade and re-won, and the NHS itself needs to modernise so it meets the needs of modern society. The choice is not change versus the status quo. I have been more honest about the failures of the NHS than any of my predecessors. The truth is that the NHS has let patients down, and despite all the improvements we're making, it is still letting too many patients down. No one defends the status quo, not even its architects in the Conservative Party. So we need change. The choice is what kind of change we choose. Change the model of funding or change the model of care. Our approach is to invest in the NHS, to modernise it and transform the way it delivers healthcare. We're doing all of that while protecting its founding principles. Healthcare with Labour will always be free at the point of need, owned by us, funded by us, there for all of us. As a cancer survivor who owes his life to the NHS, this is personal, but my argument is heart and head. As the IPPR report finds, the NHS's problems would not be solved by moving to a different funding system. It blows out of the water the assumption on the right that an insurance model would be more efficient. Insurance-based systems spend far more on administration. In fact, if the NHS were to match the social insurance average, it would have to cut £7 billion from patient services to spend on bureaucracy, precisely the opposite direction of this government's approach. Today's report also shows insurance-based systems are more unequal. They put up barriers to healthcare for the poorest. Its supporters argue it prevents people seeking care unless it's really necessary, helping to keep costs down. Actually, it's a way to keep health down. When we need to catch illness earlier, to prevent greater costs later, an insurance system would keep people away for longer. Patients end up paying far more out of pocket or on top-up private insurance in social insurance system. That result is a baked-in two-tier healthcare system where the best care is reserved for those who can afford it, while everyone else is left with a poor service for poor people. It would return us to a time when your wealth decided your health. Labour believes that everyone deserves world-class public services, whether they come from my background or Nigel Farage's. And when we get the NHS right, that is what we achieve. By the end of the last Labour government, use of the private sector fell off a cliff because the NHS was so good, no one needed to pay. We've done it before, and we will do it again. The NHS model is the fairest way of funding healthcare.
OK, that is Health Secretary Wes Streeting in central London addressing the problems in the NHS with, well, a bit of a history lesson.
Well, I thought it was a history lesson, actually.
It was a history lesson, stroke lecture. So let's go and get the thoughts now of GB News health editor Lucy Johnston. Lucy, good to see you. We were taken back there to the birth of the NHS in the 1940s. So it's been a long speech. I've heard a lot of what is wrong with the NHS, a lot of what is wrong with the funding system, but not exactly what Wes is going to do about it.
Well, what's really striking about this report is not just that patients are dying earlier than in comparable countries, is that it's happening despite record spending. We're now spending about 11% of our public purse on the NHS, and that, as he said, is roughly the size of the entire budget of Portugal. The outcomes are among the worst in the developed world, but Wes Streeting in his speech there, he's focusing on the fact that this won't be improved by an insurance-based system as they have in other countries. But if you look at the report, it's not really what the report is focusing on. The report is criticising the fact that the NHS is failing because the funding has been, we've underinvested in scanners, in beds, and critical equipment that we need to diagnose people with. And nowhere is that more stark than in cancer, where late diagnosis is still one of our biggest killers. But it is interesting that the Health Secretary is already shifting the tone on this. He says Labour's turning things around, pointing to better times and access, and he's sort of opening the door to reforms. But I think that there are different claims here, and he's pointing to the fact that he's improved waiting list, but we are starting from a very low base. And critically, what he's not talking about is the social care system, and that is one of the key reasons why we are failing in this country. We can't get people out of hospitals. People are going into hospitals because they don't have a proper social care, and that is not being funded properly, and that is the big elephant in the room, I'm afraid.
That's very well pointed out, Lucy. He didn't mention that. He didn't mention his interviews at the weekend. He hasn't mentioned it today. And he was indeed visiting a hospital in my mum's local area at the weekend, and talking about the corridor care there and how he was embarrassed. I mean, my mum and her other half were in a corridor in that hospital, and the chap on the trolley next to them died during the night. They were waiting there for 13 hours. So that person that died in that hospital should have been released into social care. He shouldn't have been dying in a corridor. This is the bottom line, but he's not addressing it at all, is he?
No, I mean, this is one of the key problems. We also have an appalling IT system, so that different bodies, the ambulances can't talk to GPs, and the whole system sort of is. One of the reasons why it's failing is because the computers don't talk to each other between regions, sub-regions, and between different parts of the NHS. And if you take Denmark, for example, often seen as a top-performing system, they spend less than we do as a share of their public purse, but they have better access, faster diagnosis, better outcomes, including cancer survival. And I think what this report shows, and what Wes Streeting is kind of hinting at, is that it's not just about money. And we hear frequently from the BMA and from doctors, we need more money, we need more staff, we need more beds, we need more pay. But actually, the real question isn't how much we're spending, it's what we're spending it on. And the report is very clear on that. The spending has been poorly targeted, and too much of the day-to-day pressures are on the system and not on the tools that actually save lives.
Lucy Johnson, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Yeah.
I don't think the Secretary of State mentioned the IPPR report, which says our mortality rates are among the worst in the world.
No, I know. It is. And it keeps going on about, other parties want a privately funded model. I don't think any other political party has actually said that.
Yeah. We've got time to talk to the panel? We have no time to talk to the panel. They will be back.
Yes.
Matthew Torbett and Neutrality. But it was turgid. But what we'll do, can we talk to you when you come back? Because it was incredible, and it was distracting. It was trying to distract from this devastating report.
It was a history lesson to avoid the truth.
But we found something you both agree on, at least.
Yeah, and Matthew said it was turgid.
Turgid,
and he's meant to be the great communicator.
Yeah, well, there we are.
We'll see you in the
Still
next
ahead at midday, the Southport Inquiry will publish its findings to provide answers on why and how the authorities failed to stop that killer in 2024 at that tragedy at the Taylor Swift dance class where 3 little girls were killed, those beautiful little girls. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A chilly start out there, but plenty of sunshine. But the shower clouds will get to work once again, and it'll be another day of April showers. So plenty of sunshine across the UK first thing this morning, but rather chilly. And temperatures rising as we go through the day as that April sunshine gets to work, but that will help bubble the clouds up, and we'll see a scattering of showers developing. Some of these could be heavy at times as we move through into the afternoon with some hail and thunder. Temperatures generally reaching 11 to 15 Celsius. So if you avoid the showers, it will feel fairly pleasant in the sunshine. Into the evening time, those showers continue, though they do start to ease across England and Wales. Frequent, though, for a time across parts of Scotland. Again, still a little wintry over the higher ground. Temperatures around 5 or 6 degrees in places. And Northern Ireland seeing a mixture of sunny spells and showers to end the day. Some of the showers still heavy across northern England, but further south you are across England and Wales, more in the way of dry weather around to end Monday, just a scattering of showers around, and they'll ease as we head through the rest of the evening and into the early hours. So for most of us, it will become dry overnight, lengthy clear skies. It will allow the temperatures to drop and a patchy frost to form. However, thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain, some stronger winds will start to move into the far west and southwest. Minimum temperatures not far off freezing again in the north and the east, where we have the clearest skies. But that means a sunny start to the day here. Cloudier across parts of Wales, the West Country, parts of Northern Ireland as weather systems slowly push north and eastwards through the day. Best of the sunshine holding on across parts of Scotland, eastern England. But even here it starts to cloud over as we move through into the afternoon. The wind's picking up, coming in from the south, so a fairly warm direction, highs approaching 15 or 16 Celsius towards the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Time is ticking on your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It is 11 o'clock on Monday, the 13th of April, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce, and this is Dawn Neeson.
Yeah, thank you for remembering. OK, a big hour coming up for you. The countdown is on for Donald Trump's Strait of Hormuz blockade.
10 o'clock tomorrow, we have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil.
Britain won't be involved in the blockade. It's supposed to start at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We will be bringing you live that, of course, on GB News today. But we're asking this question. Chinese ships went through the Strait of Hormuz at the weekend. Will they try and force their way through an American blockade? And what does that mean for world peace?
Indeed. And in other uplifting news, just joking, folks, EU rules return. European Union trade laws may be imposed on Britain without a full Commons vote. Another Brexit betrayal?
Breaking news, the Health Secretary Wes Streeting says patient satisfaction has increased with the NHS despite a damning report this morning by a left-wing think tank.
And lunchbox lockdown. Find out why it's the end of fish and chip Fridays on the school menu. Nanny state, anyone?
The South Court Inquiry today published its findings on why and how authorities failed to stop the killer in 2024, where 3 young girls were murdered: BB King, Alice da Silva Aguirre and Elsie Stankham.
I'm here to win. I am here to win.
What did you lose?
And over in Hungary, Viktor Orban concedes defeat to opposition leader Peter Magyar after 16 years in power.
And I've got to tell you, Dawn's very excited about this. A thrill-seeking parrot called BB has gone viral after going to the Bahamas in his owner's homemade submarine. He'll join us later. That is the owner, not the parrot.
Well, the parrot's going to be there as well.
Forget, share us your stories, your horror stories maybe, about school dinners. If you're as old as Dawn and I, there were some pretty horrific sort of school dinners.
Bread and dripping. Suet pudding.
That was Friday night tea, I didn't mind that.
No, I didn't mind that. Suet pudding.
Yeah, terrible.
Suet pudding, which is lethal for you. It's just like literally congealed fat.
Yeah.
You could have it as a savoury or as a dessert. You could do whatever you wanted
But
with it.
I can still see that fried fish swimming in a sea of yellow fat stroke butter, and it was full of bones. You had to eat it.
And the desserts at school. Remember the
Horrible.
desserts? Yeah, jam and everything. The pink spongy things with hundreds and thousands of. Do you remember those? And pink lumpy custard.
It was always pink.
I don't think I've ever eaten custard since. However, it wasn't healthy and didn't do us no harm, did it, Gov?
No, and there weren't many fat kids where we were.
No, I don't think you can say that anymore.
Unlike today, I'm probably going to get told off for that. As ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting.
Yeah, and also, by the way, if you want to send any messages in for Eamonn Holmes, recovering after his stroke, please do on that same message. We are passing on to Eamonn. We know he's lifting his spirits, and we want him back here as soon as we can. So do get them coming in. Anyway, an absolutely packed hour coming up for you. But first, it's news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at just after 11 o'clock. The top story this hour: opposition parties have criticised the Prime Minister's plans to limit MPs' role in decisions on closer alignment with the European Union. Under proposed legislation, the UK could adopt certain EU single market rules, including food standards, without a full parliamentary vote. Ministers say it's about streamlining regulation, but critics are arguing it sidelines Parliament. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed the UK will not support Donald Trump's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and, he says, will not be dragged into war. The US plans to block ships from the key oil route after talks with Iran collapsed at the weekend, pushing global energy prices yet higher. US Central Command says the operations could begin within hours, but the Prime Minister says the UK's focus is on keeping the strait open, not shutting it down. Well, this morning, speaking to BBC Radio 5 Live, the Prime Minister said Britain is working with allies to protect shipping and avoid further escalation.
We're not supporting blockade, and all of the marshalling diplomatically, politically and capability. We do have minesweeping capability. I won't go into operational matters, but we do have that capability. That's all focused from our point of view on getting the straits fully open. I want to be really clear about that. And the reason for that is because that's the way we get energy prices down as quickly as possible. And I'm very concerned about the impact that this war is having on people back in the United Kingdom who've obviously played no part in the war, but I don't want them paying the price.
Well, let's just pull away from those stories for a moment, take you live now to Nigel Farage, Reform UK's press conference, discussing
from a
the
European
migrant
Union
crisis.
that had been the low-growth capital of the world
for many, many years, and by the way, it still is the low-growth capital of the world. And yet, we hear overnight, as a continuing part of Keir Starmer's so-called EU reset, that effectively he wants us to rejoin the single market and put us back into regulatory alignment, literally bypassing Parliament. Sadly, going back to single market rules is much easier than it should be, because the Conservatives did not deliver. And above all, Kemi Badenoch, when she was the minister in charge, had the opportunity to wipe away 5,000 EU regulations, but chose not to. I'm a Conservative, she said, not an arsonist. So for Starmer to go back to single market rules, to accept everything that's new, is very much easier, because Brexit was not properly delivered in the way that those who voted for it wanted. But the same applies on an even bigger scale to the vexed issue of immigration and the population explosion this country has been undergoing since the turn of the century. And there is no doubt that the Brexit vote, the increased turnout, was above all about getting back control of our borders, being more selective about those that came. The Australian-style point system was one that I pointed to, in that you could choose sectorally what shortages you had, what skill sets you needed. But it was also about radically reducing the numbers coming in to stop the population explosion. And I think after 4 manifesto commitments to reduce net migration to tens of thousands a year, I think we all genuinely thought that Boris Johnson, as Prime Minister, might do something about it. The truth is, he did the opposite with the Boris wave. Now, I think the arguments about the lack of integration in our cities, the arguments about the rapid, worrying growth of extreme Islamism, are arguments that have been well rehearsed, and I think pretty much everybody accepts that's a problem. But for all these years, and I've been campaigning on the population growth since 2004, every time we've had this debate, I've been told, Nigel, don't worry your little head, because it's good for the economy. It's good for GDP, it's good for growth, it's good for the economy. And there's not really been a proper debate about the economic damage of not just low-skilled immigration into Britain, but actually, as Zia will show us in a moment's time, vast numbers of people coming into Britain who do not work and probably never ever will work. This has come at a potentially massive future cost. Now, there is still time. There is still something we can do about this Boris wave. But if over a couple of million people get indefinite leave to remain over the course of the next 18 months, we will be putting around our necks an economic millstone that, frankly, will be catastrophic. As I say, both of the big arguments of the day lead back to that Brexit vote of 10 years ago and point directly to a political class who never believed in it and never, frankly, wanted to implement it. And it has been quite remarkable over the course of the last 48 hours that we have a Conservative leader complaining about this, despite the fact she didn't get rid of all those EU regulations, claiming victory over the Chagos deal when it was that Conservative government that entered into 11 rounds of negotiations and opened the door, and even now the Conservatives sounding strong on defence, when of course it's they that have hollowed out our defences, in particular the Royal Navy, to the current shameful level that we see. Of course there are some that will say, but you've got Suella Braverman, you've got Robert Jenrick in your party. Yes, absolutely. And if you read what Suella has written on this, and you read what Robert has written on this, they tried from within to stop the disaster that really started properly in 2021, and that's why they resigned or were fired. I will hand over to Zia Youssef now, who will speak to stop the Boris wave, because it can, to a large extent, still be stopped, and if we do it, it'll save every household in Britain over the coming decades, up to £20,000 a year. Thank you, Zia.
Good morning, everyone. So today we publish a report called The Cost of the Boris Wave. It's a detailed analysis of the fiscal impact of the Boris Wave, and it reveals it is set to cost every household in Britain £20,000. The Boris Wave of unprecedented mass immigration permanently altered the culture of this country. It's permanently altered the fiscal trajectory of the country. It permanently altered the lives of British people against their wishes. The Tory party, having promised in 4 consecutive manifestos to cut immigration significantly, instead unleashed the most extraordinary surge in mass immigration this country has ever seen. Having presided over the Brexit vote and promised to take back control, they threw open our borders. Between January of 2021 and June 2024, Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his Conservative successors issued a staggering 3.8 million long-term visas, resulting in gross immigration of 4.8 million and net immigration of 2.6 million. Annual net immigration averaged more than double the previous decade, which was already a period of historically high mass immigration. But these mind-boggling numbers do not tell the full story of the catastrophe. It was not just the size, but the composition of the Boris Wave that was fundamentally different to previous cohorts of migrants. Economically, just 17%, 1/7, of the Boris Wave migrants came to Britain as workers on work visas. Culturally, Britain went from immigration primarily from EU countries to vastly higher levels of immigration from primarily non-EU countries. Parts of the country changed beyond recognition in just a few years. And while Boris Johnson is no longer Prime Minister, his poisonous legacy is only just beginning to unfold. In fact, the Boris Wave is a ticking fiscal bomb about to explode. According to the government's own figures, between 1.6 and 2.2 million Boris Wave migrants are now becoming eligible to receive indefinite leave to remain and, shortly after, British citizenship. As the report demonstrates, the cost of the Boris Wave gaining ILR and then citizenship in Britain will be £622 billion in real terms. That's 3 times the annual budget for the NHS, 10 times our annual defence budget. So our message is firstly to the current Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Do not U-turn on your ILR reforms. Your Home Secretary, to her credit, is aware of this fiscal time bomb about to explode on the British people. That's why she announced retrospective changes to indefinite leave to remain to delay such grants to Boris Wave migrants. Such a delay would give a future Reform government a chance to deal with this properly. But now, as we know, as has been widely reported, including by many in this room, Starmer is no longer really running his party nor the country. And Shabana Mahmood is isolated, outmanoeuvred and outgunned by the Labour Parliamentary Party. In fact, I hear she's preparing to resign. Here's what we know for certain. If Starmer U-turns on the retrospective ILR reforms, by the time 2029 comes, over half the Boris Wave migrants will already be citizens. Over half the £600 billion cost will already be baked in. Of all the Starmer U-turns, this would be the most historic and consequential. Our second message is that a Reform government, led by Nigel, will deal with this issue decisively. We will abolish indefinite leave to remain, replacing it with a 5-year renewable work visa, with a special visa available to spouses of UK citizens. The work visa will have a much higher salary threshold, so that all recipients are net contributors to the economy, and a much higher standard of English will be required. There will also be an acute special skills visa available to those working in national critical sectors like care. We will immediately terminate welfare payments to all foreign nationals in Britain, saving £9 billion a year in universal credit payments alone. And thirdly, we recognise the historic scale and severity of this financial catastrophe, the Boris Wave. It cost Britain enormous damage, and the fact it was done against the wishes of the British people. It is without a doubt one of the biggest political scandals of our lifetimes. It culturally transformed our country and has the potential to bankrupt it. So, a Reform government will commission a national inquiry into the Boris wave, how it happened, who authorised each aspect of it, and why. The likes of Boris Johnson and Priti Patel will be compelled to testify under oath, along with anyone else involved. The goal of this inquiry will be to get to the truth and also to ensure it never happens again. Look, the true cost of the Boris wave to all areas of life for British people may well be incalculable. But there are parts we can calculate. And the numbers are so enormous that they have the potential to bankrupt the country we love. That's why Reform will do what is necessary to avert this fiscal disaster, to repair the damage and heal the open wounds the Tories and Labour left.
OK, you have been listening to Reform UK, Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef, who are talking about the Boris wave and how much it is going to cost everybody.
And we need to put it in context, because the headline says the Boris wave, that massive hike in immigration, would cost us £20,000?
£20,000 between 2026 and 2030. I've tried to boil down the numbers. I can't make them work.
Well, I read it as it would be the lifetime cost of this wave of immigration to 2085.
Yeah. Which makes... And you've worked out the numbers.
And you've done the numbers, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, it makes it £333 a year, which we shouldn't be paying. And yes, we had too many people come here who could not support or fund themselves, and we've seen lots of detrimental effects of that. But these are numbers that Reform has worked out itself. It's more than double, well over double, anyone else's estimate of what the cost might be. The government, the Labour government, has no reason to defend the Tories on this, actually still estimates that we would be in positive territory. So Reform have made the numbers, I think, clearly as big as possible, as scary as possible. And then they've done it over 60 years, so that we all think, and I think it's wrong to scare people that badly, that we'll suddenly be facing a bill of 20 grand.
Because that was when you saw the headline this morning in the papers, Matthew. I thought, and my first response when editorial meeting was, I said, where do they get that figure from? What do you make of that figure?
Right, I was surprised, and therefore you wonder, whether it's true. I think I've spoken about they've made their own numbers. This is what they've tried to square it as high as possible to try, and I think maybe Nunciat's right, to sort of fearmonger and scare people. I think there's all this grand... they're not going to get Boris Johnson in front of anything or Priti Patel. This is ridiculous for a start. But I think you just got to change the rules. It's much cheaper.
Absolutely. And isn't that what we all want? We want a well-governed country, not one bogged down in yet another inquiry that is going to tell us the blinking obvious, but
Too many people came in.
take a huge amount of money and take years to do so.
Yeah.
It seems to me we've had inquiry after inquiry where we haven't really learnt anything. We've just wasted a lot of public time, a lot of public money, and a lot of focus on the obvious.
Did we feel any the wiser after the COVID inquiry?
No.
Is it still going on? It's still going on, isn't it? It's just one bit of it's concluded, I think.
It's still going on. It's costing millions as well. But as you say, Matthew, the most astonishing thing is trying to force Boris Johnson to testify at a migrant crisis inquiry.
It grabs headlines.
Criminal charges.
Yeah, well, it's a load of guff. It grabs headlines. I think ultimately... Most people want fairness, right, in life. I don't know if it's an inherently British thing, we all queue a lot and whatever else. At the moment, if you come to this country on a visa and you're to bring a dependent, you've got to prove that you can, cover that dependent's expenses and they're not going to be using the state. The problem at the moment is that's only a one-off. So you might only have the money for that year and it doesn't matter. Therefore, this is how you end up with people on welfare and whatever else, and it costs us all in the long run. And there is that fairness aspect of we've only been here a year, should you be entitled to, and we have this whole discussion around citizenship. I think all you do is you have to check in each year. Show me that you've got the money, otherwise they're going to have to go, unfortunately.
And I think we do have to reconsider who we give permanent right to remain and who we give British citizenship to, and what benefits those actually entitle you to. And it should be carte blanche from day one or from year 5.
OK, and Elsie, we have to interrupt you now. Matthew, you will be back soon.
There will be.
In response, the Conservative shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has said...
This is a piece of... You've moved it too fast.
Oh, sorry.
Can't read it that quick. I'm getting old. This is a piece of cheap party political theatrics that will cost taxpayers millions to mask reforms lack of actual policies or solutions.
The Conservative Party has changed and is under new leadership now. The Change Conservatives have developed a plan to fix the UK's immigration problems.
But they did make a right Horlicks of it, let's be honest. They
I don't
did.
think you meant to say that
No,
bit.
probably not, but
No.
I did. Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway.
Yes,
the clock is
indeed.
ticking. You can win how much?
It's £25,000 in tax-free cash and that amazing motorhome that's worth, well, the whole prize is £92,000 altogether.
Maybe we should give Dawn away.
Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this stylish home from home comes with all of the features you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £67,000. Alloy wheels, solar panel and pop-top bunks for an optional sleeping area. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you. So secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Just reminiscing about our caravan holidays as kids.
Weymouth and Ramsgate.
Canvey Island.
Oh dear.
Yeah, quite.
But Canvey Island, very nice. Not going to be disrespectful to Canvey Island, but I'm glad we had Weymouth.
It's improved.
Dorothy's Cafe, still there, where we had our posh lunch.
Toilet blocks. Any case. Up next, it's fast approaching lunchtime, so it's time to talk about the huge changes to school dinners, talking of food. Goodbye chicken nuggets and sloppy mash.
No, it was lumpy mash.
Lumpy, yeah.
That's right, not sloppy.
That was
I don't want sloppy.
No, lumpy. We're going to go through that and more with Annunciata Rees-Mogg and Matthew Torwick. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Day.
From cold mornings
To warm family brunches.
from football to tennis in the car,
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Okay, it is 26 minutes past 11. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and me, Dawn Neeson.
We've got Matthew and Nancy Archer still in the studio. Shall we carry on talking about Nigel, or shall we talk about school dinners? You want to talk about school dinners, don't you?
Oh, well, I don't mind. I'm quite easy, to be honest
What's
with
your
you.
school dinner
I'm
like?
quite exercised about school
Good.
dinners, I have got to say.
Good.
Fish and chips on a Friday.
Yeah.
Absolute staple
Yes.
tradition. I
Yeah.
loathe the
Yeah.
fish. It had that big slimy black streak. It had bones.
Their
it
bones
had
were so
grey
disgusting.
bits.
What
in
kind
it.
of fish were
It
you
was
talking about?
disgusting. Clearly, school dinners, the cheapest fish they could possibly find.
A cheaper version
Mine
of cod.
often accidentally slipped on the floor because
Ah.
the chips were so good. I had
Funny
to take
that.
the chips,
Yeah.
but you had to take fish to be allowed chips.
Well, this is the problem. You're going to get the fish, but minus the fried batter now and minus the chips. So it's just going to be...
Are they going to make the kids eat that?
They won't.
You just sort of do. I was at school.
You'll be a parent soon, Matthew. It's going to
Yeah.
all be.
Well, but listen, I've got a list to come. Obviously, I was at school when the Jamie Oliver reforms came in.
All right, youngster.
I know exactly. Yeah, don't look at it.
Low, wasn't it?
I had
Low.
I had a year of turkey Twizzlers and all the rest of it, and we were all fuming. The vending machines had changed from chocolate to apples and water. No more Coca-Cola and all that sort of stuff. You sort of just got on with it because it was all right, I suppose. Kids will eat right, they'll eat what they're given. And I think the broader thing with it for the government, for me, is we talk about obesity a lot, it's very important. I think the broader issue, and I remember reading this about 15 years ago, is a fitness crisis in our children. You have many kids that aren't overweight, but that could not go up the stairs without being out of breath. And I think the lack of playing out, the lack of social activity, the more insular children have become, that is the ticking time bomb, I think.
Our eldest daughter was at private school in London, and she had quinoa, and everything was just disgustingly low fat, low carb, healthy. I'd have personally just not eaten anything. And we moved to Lincolnshire, and she went to school there, and it was sticky toffee pudding, it was dumplings, it was full roast dinners every single day. And they did sport every single day. There wasn't a single fat kid. They ran around for hours.
Yeah.
They needed the energy to do the exercise. They were as fit as fiddles. And I think that is a real betrayal of the next generation, is that they're not getting the fitness.
Yeah, I think that's the message that they should be putting out to youngsters. Because, I mean, you went through it with the turkey Twizzlers, but back then I remember there were parents turning up at the school and handing sort of like takeaway food over the fence.
I read about this at the time, and I was sort of gutted maybe my school weren't as nice because we didn't have any of that at the school gates. But I think the access is I think it's access and the opportunity to do some of the outdoor activities Annunciata's on about. Too many schools don't prioritise the physical aspect because of whether it be budgets or whatever reason, they'll know. And I just think about when I was a kid, there was a youth club on a Monday, I did martial arts on a Tuesday, I did football twice a week, and you were constantly, my mum said I looked underfed half the time despite eating half the fridge. And I worry that we are, the kids are turning into these sort of hunched back...
We're not quite sure where this edict's coming from about school lunches, by the way. There's as ever with government, there's a paucity of detail. But is it the job of the state to dictate what should be on the school menu?
No, I think it should be down to the schools, and it should be the parents should be involved. But also, the advice from the government, from the NHS, is so often completely out of date and wrong. that the NHS advice still says that whole fat milk is bad for you. It's proven to be better for your heart. That red meat is bad for you. It isn't. It's when you go down the route of the low-fat, fake, over-processed food that there are much bigger problems for health outcomes. And the NHS hasn't reflected that at all. And I suspect that this advice will be coming from similar sources.
Isn't that where the obesity crisis has come from, Matthew? A lot of processed food now, which is cheaper. Cost of living crisis, been an ongoing cost of living crisis for years, really. And you can see mum in the supermarket, or dad, they buy the cheap ham.
I think the majority of food people probably take in is processed, and that is a big part of it. I mean, I saw you two speak earlier about your childhood and not seeing many fat kids, and I think food wasn't processed in the same way. Totally, it wasn't ultra-processed.
And a lot of people were poorer then. They grew their own vegetables. Grew their own potatoes,
no, totally.
I'm
not overly concerned about the state dictating at school. What I would want, and I think the other aspect is, sticky toffee pudding's fine, I think, because there's nothing wrong with having a treat. I think the problem we have in society is we have a lot of mollycoddled kids who get treats every day, and therefore that's where maybe it becomes an issue. I think as long as the food is hearty, good and filling, particularly for those kids that maybe don't have parents that look after them, essentially, and it may be the only hot food that they have that day or whatever else, or don't have the money, I'd just rather make sure they're well fed, whatever it is, basically, and it fills them up and it's good for them.
And a lot of I've tried to give up bread, and I'm told that is the worst form of processed food now, bread. And and I was talking to this trainer, and I said, "Yeah, but I buy this granary bread, and it's full of sugar,
carbs,
it's full of carbs. Stop eating bread."
I personally am very pro-carb, but I do accept that they don't suit everyone. But our bread is amazingly over-manufactured, and they include all sorts of stuff in that, some of which is good. It does have some basic minerals and nutrients that we need.
Lots of people are getting in touch about this. One point that we haven't mentioned yet was selling off of the school playing fields.
Yes, successive governments.
Big issue. Yeah, that's as you said, both Conservative and Labour guilty of that one. And Cliff raised an interesting point. It's what kids eat out of school that's a problem, which keeps bringing back to what the parents are doing.
But also,
parental responsibility.
And the takeaway food stores right by schools.
Yeah, that should be banned.
Well, they've been talking about that for donkey's years.
I think that's always been an issue. I think it was an issue when I was at school. Not forever. I think there's no need for it to be there. Yeah. Kids will obviously go off and do what they want.
Of course they do. And they've got the money now to go and have a burger.
Well, no, exactly. And if you're doing chicken and chips for $2.99, kids are saving the money and eating that after school.
But the ice cream van always used to come round after.
Yeah, we had the same.
You know, same thing.
We had the same.
Yeah. On that, we want to hear your thoughts. So should the government have a say in what our children eat, yes or no? If you want to vote, simply go to gbnews.com/you decide, or you can scan that thing called a QR code, which is on your screen right now. It's a little thing in the corner. Do you know what a QR code is?
No, I've got no idea. On a need-to-know basis, I don't need to know. OK, but all of that coming up after the 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 11:33. The headlines this hour. Opposition parties are criticising the Prime Minister's plans to limit MPs' roles in decisions on closer alignment with the EU. Under proposed legislation, the UK could adopt certain EU single market rules, including food standards, without a full parliamentary vote. Ministers say it's about streamlining regulation, but critics argue it sidelines Parliament. Oil prices have surged again after the US moved to impose a blockade on Iranian shipping. Peace talks between Tehran and Washington collapsed at the weekend. The UK says it will not join any US-led blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. That is despite claims from the US President Donald Trump. Here, Sir Keir Starmer is under pressure over the Chagos Islands deal after it was dropped from the next parliamentary agenda. The Conservatives say the Prime Minister must admit the agreement is, they say, effectively dead. But ministers are insisting talks are still ongoing. A new report has said switching the NHS to an insurance-based system would not improve performance. Researchers argue the real issue is underinvestment, not how the health service is funded. Up to 25,000 carers could have debts reduced or even cancelled under a government review. Around 200,000 cases will also be reassessed after years of confusion over earnings rules. And the Metropolitan Police is exploring AI to help identify child abuse victims faster. Officers say it could speed up safeguarding and reduce exposure to distressing material, with human oversight remaining in place. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup with the news at midday.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thank you very much, Sam. OK, we've got a real treat for you up at noon. It's Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana.
Otherwise known as NATO.
NATO,
which is rather relevant at the moment.
Yes, certainly is. Well, it's 3 o'clock, just as your programme ends.
Yeah, that embargo is supposed to begin, will it? Or will there be another acronym?
TACO.
I quite like the taco one. We've been talking about food all morning. Taco's working for me today.
I don't think that's fair, though, giving him that name. I think that, he's playing games. He's got to play a similar game to the Iranians. When you fight fire with fire, you can't go in there being all sort of, oh, well, we'll wait for you to sign and we'll wait for you. I think a lot of the people in the West underestimate the Iranian regime and how they behave.
we were also... We talked to a military op man earlier and we were asking... two Chinese ships went through the Strait at the weekend. If Chinese ships test the blockade, what's the response?
Huge.
And then that's a massive escalation.
Absolutely. We should say it's not just the Strait of Hormuz we're talking about today. So that's at 3 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, it's the Southport Inquiry report. That is going to be published right at the start of the show. It seems to be extraordinary how many failures there were. The perpetrator, and the families have asked not to name the perpetrator, the murderer here. He was referred to prevent 3 times, and in fact 6 days before he was released from his secure mental health facility, he was discharged with a note saying the risk to others was minimal.
It's just heartbreaking.
And for the parents, it's going to be an agony to read, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely devastating. We'll be bringing you that at 12. Also, we're talking about the EU. Oh, God. Keir Starmer, basically, and his government trying to sort of shuffle us in to make us join the new EU single market rules, which and also being able to sort of get around Parliament as well, so that they can just go along with it. And I don't understand anyone who had any modicum of sense that would align yourself to something that you have absolutely no control of. So I think that's a bit of a shocker, so we'll be talking about that as well.
We've got a busy programme.
Very busy indeed.
Live events.
Yeah,
all of that and more at midday. Now up next.
Yeah, we are just under 4 hours from Donald Trump's Strait of Hormuz blockade to come into force. That's 3 o'clock UK time. We'll have the latest. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. We'll see you soon.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through the rest of today, it's going to be a case of sunshine and showers. Lighter winds than the past few days, though, so it will feel a little bit warmer than it did over the weekend. Our winds are switching to more of a southerly direction, which will bring in the slightly milder feel through this afternoon. Now, after a pretty bright start, cloud will thicken this afternoon, so sunshine does become a little bit more limited and showers will start to bubble up, particularly across western areas. I think parts of southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, far west of Scotland, most likely to see any heavier showers, but many areas at least at risk of seeing the odd shower this afternoon. But it will feel warmer than of late, highs of 15, possibly 16 degrees in the southeast, in the low teens for many of us. Now, those showers continue this evening, particularly across the far north of the UK, parts of Scotland seeing some very heavy bursts. These will continue to fall as snow over the highest ground. As we look further south, it will be a mixture of clear skies and the odd showers still continuing through this evening, particularly across more southern areas as well, but also some dry weather to be had, and it won't be too cold this evening after the quite chilly start we had this morning. Now, a relatively settled start to the night. It does become drier and clearer through the first part of the night, and many eastern areas temperatures will fall away. But across the west, we start to see this cloud building from the south and west, bringing rain to parts of Wales and the southwest of England by tomorrow morning. So a milder start here, but a touch of frost across the far east, if not just in those low single figures to start the day. So a settled start to the day for many eastern areas, a good amount of sunshine for many of us, but by lunchtime the cloud will thicken once again, and that rain starts to spread in from the south and west, bringing with it milder air, but also quite a lot of drizzle, particularly across the coast and high ground as well. So please take care. Bye-bye.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
Well, to be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew and Dawn, who is in for Miriam Cates. Now, Donald Trump has set the clock ticking. They're going to blockade any and all ships, he says, attempting to use the Strait of Hormuz by 3 p.m. today.
Yeah, United States Central Command has warned that the blockade of Iran's ports in the Strait will begin at 3 o'clock, that's UK time, after attempts to secure that ceasefire in the Middle East collapsed.
Keir Starmer spoke about this on the BBC this morning. Take a listen.
All the time the strait is shut or not free for navigation in the way it should be, that means that oil and gas is not getting to market. That means the price is going up. That means everybody listening to this is facing higher energy bills. And I don't want that to happen. I want their energy bills to be stabilised and lower. And so it is, in my view, vital that we get the strait open and fully open. And that's where we've put all of our efforts.
OK, joining us now to discuss this is GB News Deputy Political Editor, the wonderful Tom Harwood. Tom, good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's been a while.
It's been at least a few hours. Tom, what do you make of this? I mean, is this going to happen, or is this another Trump putting it out there and then going back on it?
If you knew the answer to that, you could probably make a lot of money by 3 p.m. today. Betting markets, of course, are legal in the United States. Prediction markets, future markets, they are all over the place on this. But, of course, 10 a.m. Eastern time, that's 3 p.m. our time, even earlier, Strait of Hormuz, or later, I should say, Strait of Hormuz time, it is looking like the United States is digging in and is saying that, hang on, if you're going to toll these ships against international law, then the United States will stop you from tolling these ships.
But didn't the President of the United States last week say the toll plan was a beautiful idea?
That is true. It
quite a
seems
big
like
change.
The President himself and United States official policy sometimes don't always match.
Yeah.
But this is just ships using Iranian ports, isn't it? It's not just ships using ports further up in Iraq and just travelling through. It's just ships using those ports. And there is a difference there.
Right. This is a targeted measure to deal with Iran. We know that those talks collapsed over the weekend. J.D. Vance flew 17 hours out to meet personally, face-to-face, with the Iranian negotiators, and it didn't seem to get anywhere. They were too stuck in their ways, and now Iran is saying that we will not surrender under threats. It seems that Iran is looking at this as a threat and digging in, because sometimes when you're received sort of hard-headedness, then you butt heads.
Really
Tom,
fascinating.
thank you so much. Coming up next in lighter news, which will be a perfect Tom Harwood whiteboard moment.
This is Dawn Neeson's favourite story of the year.
Come on, it's been a hard morning working with him. A thrill-seeking parrot called BB has gone viral after driving in the Bahamas in its owner's homemade submarine. He'll be joining us later, the parrot and the owner. But first, if you're on search
Can't
for
wait.
holiday sun,
It's Pulitzer Prize stuff, this.
Here is a forecast of them as top European destinations.
looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It's rather mixed across the Mediterranean for the next few days. Plenty of sunshine across Spain, the risk of some thunderstorms for Italy. Fairly cloudy skies on Tuesday across the Canary Islands, but plenty of sunny spells for Portugal, much of Spain as well, but frequent showers across Italy, some of these stretching across to Greece, but largely dry across Turkey and towards Cyprus as well. Some spells of hazy sunshine as we move through into Tuesday afternoon. The next few days also remain largely dry with sunny spells.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Now, a parrot's gone viral, thanks to Dawn Newsom, after a 15-minute trip in his owner's homemade submarine. BB, a white-winged parakeet, was taken 3 feet below the surface in the Bahamas in this custom-built vessel. If you're listening on the radio, the parrot is in this little, tiny, transparent submarine.
And it's in very, very shallow water, and his owner, who is Stephen, a lawyer, was with him all the time and joins us now. Stephen and BB, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Stephen, I love this story. BB looks very, very happy in the submarine. Tell us a bit more about what BB does. I mean, is it a he or she?
BB is a he. Well, at least we believe so. He's never actually been tested, but his behaviors are consistent, and he's stretching his wings for you. It's morning for BB. There's his morning wing stretch. Yeah, there you go. No, we believe he's a he because of his size. In his breed, the males are larger, so we're pretty confident BB is a he.
Okay, so tell us more about the submarine trip. I mean, BB sounds like having a while of a time there already. How did the submarine trip come about?
Well, so BB just found his food over here, so I'm going to let him eat because it'll make him a little less squawky. We can bring him back on camera. He goes everywhere with me and my girlfriend, and so we were taking a longer and extended trip to the Bahamas. We were going to be there for a month, and we just didn't want to be apart from him for that long, and we knew he wouldn't want to be apart from us for that long. He actually gets distressed if he has to go to a babysitter, as I call them, for extended periods of time. And we knew we were going to be snorkeling. And so just those two facts, that we didn't want to be apart from him and he likes to do everything with us, led to the construction. I actually have it here of what I call the Bebosphere, which is his little submarine that you see in the videos.
And BB had no problem. I mean, he looks very chilled in the little video, which, by the way, has got 4.3 million views on Instagram.
Yes, yeah. Well, that was totally unexpected, by the way. I mean, I think he had like 38 followers, which are just friends that know him very well and love to see his little adventures. So I stuck the video up so that they could see it. He does. The breed itself can be very adventurous, and BB is particularly adventurous within the breed. There's a trust bond between BB and I, and he likes to be with me everywhere. So I think maybe you've seen or heard that he has about 15 skydives, and it's hard for me to go get on the airplane for a skydive without him insisting on coming along for those as well.
Stephen, that is great. Thank you so much. We say goodbye. Bye, BB.
What a lovely looking
Bye.
Bye, BB. Bye, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Stephen Lawyer there. Thank you. Bye, BB. Oh, that was lovely. Well, it's nice to end on a happy note.
Really
Andrew,
is. Very
it?
cheerful.
Yeah.
He did look quite.
He did look very
too
happy.
traumatised, anyway.
Okay, that's it from Britain's Newsroom. We're back tomorrow. Lucky Andrew. But up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana.
See you tomorrow.
Do stay with us. At 12 o'clock, we'll be seeing the report of the Southport inquiry, a momentous occasion. Where on earth did it all go wrong?
And Keir Starmer appears to be trying to shove us back into the EU with no power at all. We'll bring you all of that and much more after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A chilly start out there, but plenty of sunshine. But the shower clouds will get to work once again, and it'll be another day of April showers. So plenty of sunshine across the UK first thing this morning, but rather chilly. And temperatures rising as we go through the day as that April sunshine gets to work, but that will help bubble the clouds up, and we'll see a scattering of showers developing. Some of these could be heavy at times as we move through into the afternoon with some hail and thunder. Temperatures generally reaching 11 to 15 Celsius. So if you avoid the showers, it will feel fairly pleasant in the sunshine. Into the evening time, those showers continue, though they do start to ease across England and Wales. Frequent, though, for a time across parts of Scotland. Again, still a little wintry over the higher ground. Temperatures around 5 or 6 degrees in places. And Northern Ireland seeing a mixture of sunny spells and showers to end the day. Some of the showers still heavy across northern England, but further south you are across England and Wales, more in the way of dry weather around to end Monday, just a scattering of showers around, and they'll ease as we head through the rest of the evening and into the early hours. So for most of us, it will become dry overnight, lengthy clear skies. It will allow the temperatures to drop and a patchy frost to form. However, thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain, some stronger winds will start to move into the far west and southwest. Minimum temperatures not far off freezing again in the north and the east, where we have the clearest skies. But that means a sunny start to the day here. Cloudier across parts of Wales, the West Country, parts of Northern Ireland as weather systems slowly push north and eastwards through the day. Best of the sunshine holding on across parts of Scotland. eastern England. But even here it starts to cloud over as we move through into the afternoon. The wind's picking up, coming in from the south, so a fairly warm direction, highs approaching 15 or 16 Celsius towards the southeast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck!
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for